The time Mickey Mantle came limping into the bottom of the 10th on August 4th, 1963, Robinson had already spent years watching that number 7 feel like a storm cloud over any opponent's plan. But this wasn't the familiar dread of, "Here comes Mantle again." This time, it was something else, something quieter and heavier. When Robinson saw him, truly saw him, he leaned toward the man beside him and said the line that would outlive the box score. "This is why he's Mickey Mantle." Not because of the fame, not because of the headlines, because the kid was broken and still walked into the fire. Left foot locked in a cast, right knee practically wreckage, a long-term injury that had become a permanent roommate inside his body. He'd been out for 61 games, 2 months where the Yankees still kept rolling, still stayed on top, still looked like a machine that didn't need its most mythic piece to function. And yet, the stadium had felt wrong without him. Fans didn't just miss home runs, they missed the walk, the presence, the idea that at any second the game could be ripped open by one violent swing. In 1963, Mantle wasn't the shining golden boy from 1956 anymore. He wasn't the perfect icon. He was the most dangerous kind of legend, the one who could barely move, but still terrified you anyway. The story didn't begin in that 10th inning. It started earlier that summer, June 5th, 1963, in Baltimore at Memorial Stadium. One of those nights where baseball is supposed to feel routine until it suddenly becomes a kind of public tragedy. Brooks Robinson lifted a high fly to deep center. Mantle took off like he always did, chasing it as if his body hadn't spent the last decade warning him. At 31, he wasn't the fastest man alive anymore. Whatever speed he once had been taxed by that old 1951 knee injury. But he still ran the way he always ran. Like quitting was not a concept available to him. Everyone could see it was gone. Over the fence, home run. The play was already finished in the minds of 18,000 people. But Mantle kept coming. Then it happened. Full speed into a 7-foot chain-link fence, the kind of impact you feel in your teeth even if you're sitting 3 sections away. His spikes caught in the mesh at the wrong moment. His foot hit in the downward stroke of his stride. And the sound that followed wasn't just pain. It was finality. A crack that echoed across the stadium like a door slamming shut was blunt. Fracture of the third was blunt. Fracture of the third metatarsal in his left foot. A clean break. Minimum 6 weeks, maybe 8, maybe longer. For a 31-year-old already playing on a damaged knee for 12 years, that wasn't just time on the injured list. That was your body telling you the bill has come due. He missed 61 games. And here's the part that makes the moment sharper. The Yankees kept winning without him. They were in first place. Other names stepped into the spotlight. The standings didn't collapse. The franchise machine kept humming, because that's what powerful organizations do. They absorb shocks and keep moving. In today's terms, you'd call it depth. Roster construction, redundancy, next man up. But in 1963, it felt almost like betrayal to the fans. How could the world keep turning when Mickey Mantle wasn't out there? Yet baseball isn't only economics, it's emotion. And emotion doesn't follow logic. Yankee Stadium felt wrong. Center field looked empty even when someone stood there. People showed up and stared at the grass as if the absence itself was a player. They didn't just miss production, they missed meaning. Doctors cleared Mantle to return on September 1st, lightly. Ease into it, maybe pinch hit. No running, no fielding. A controlled re-entry. The kind of plan modern sports medicine would insist on, the kind teams protect now because careers are assets. Multi-million-dollar investments, brand value, long-term competitiveness. But Mantle wasn't a modern asset managed by policy. He was a man from an era that treated pain like a toll you paid at the gate. So on August 4th, that Sunday doubleheader against Baltimore, he walked up to manager Ralph Houck between games while Houck worked the lineup. Mantle didn't make a speech. He didn't negotiate. He said, "I can hit." Houck looked at him like you look at someone trying to walk into a hurricane. The foot was still in a walking cast. The knee was wrapped tight, almost mummified. The doctor had said September. Mantle was saying now. "Mick, you can barely stand," Houck told him. Mantle didn't debate. "I can hit." Houck knew better than to argue with Mickey Mantle, because in the mythology of baseball, some men don't ask permission from their own bodies. Finally, Houck gave him the only compromise possible. Only if they needed him, only to pinch hit, and no running. Mantle nodded, like that last part was a formality, like destiny could be bargained with. The second game became a war the way fans dream games will be. Back and forth, tense, loud. The kind of contest where the air feels electrically charged because everyone senses the ending is going to hurt somebody. Baltimore tied it in the 9th. Extra innings. And by the bottom of the 10th, it was 10-10, men on base, 2 outs, and the Yankees needed a hit like a drowning man needs air. Houck looked down the bench and Mantle was already standing, already gripping a bat, already testing his weight on that broken foot and flinching at the pain that shot up his leg. "Mick, you sure?" Houck asked, one last chance for reason to intervene. Mantle didn't answer. He just walked toward the on-deck circle. The roar was deafening, until the crowd actually saw him. Saw the limp, saw the stiffness of the cast, saw the way every step looked like it cost him something. And the sound changed. The cheering softened into concern, into that strange hush that falls over a stadium when people realize they aren't watching entertainment anymore. They're watching something that might go wrong in a way you can't unsee. In the Orioles dugout, Brooks Robinson stood up. Not to chirp, not to scheme, just to witness. Because he understood what was coming wasn't just a baseball moment. It was a human moment. One of those rare seconds when competition pauses and everybody, even the enemy, recognizes the same truth at the same time. Mickey Mantle stepped toward the batter's box like a man walking across broken glass, and Yankee Stadium, usually so hungry for noise, held its breath. The cast on his left foot made his stride unnatural, stiff, like his body had been rearranged into a shape it was never meant to take. And that right knee, the one that had haunted him since 1951, looked like it was being held together by tape, stubbornness, and the sheer refusal to accept the obvious. This wasn't the swaggering superstar strolling up to the plate to finish off another opponent. This was a wounded man walking into a moment he might not survive with dignity. Forward. Players lining up at the top step. Forward. Players lining up at the top step the way people do at a funeral procession or a roadside accident, because they knew something significant was happening and they couldn't look away. Brooks Robinson's voice cut through the strange stillness like a private broadcast. This is why he's Mickey Mantle. Not because of his trophies, not because of his numbers, because the body was failing and he showed up anyway. On the mound stood Orioles left-hander Steve Barber. He looked in at Mantle and saw what everyone saw, a legend reduced to limping flesh. And yet, Barber also understood the cruel truth about baseball history. Sometimes, the most dangerous hitter is the one who looks finished, because the pitcher relaxes, the defense softens, and the story writes itself in blood. Barber didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just got the sign and delivered. First pitch, hard inside. Mantle didn't swing. Strike one. The crowd didn't boo. Nobody laughed. There was no "get him out of here." There was only the cold realization that this was not about winning a game anymore. It was about whether Mickey Mantle could survive his own willpower. Mantle stepped out, inhaled, and you could almost see him trying to bargain with pain. The cast kept him from planting properly. The knee kept him from shifting weight the way his swing demanded. The mechanics that had made him terrifying, balance, torque, explosion, had been stripped away. The modern language would call him compromised. Teams today would call this a medical risk, a liability, an avoidable catastrophe. But the early 1960s didn't speak that way. Baseball then had a harsher religion. If you can stand, you can play. If you can swing, you can hit. And if you can hit, you can change the world for one pitch. Second pitch came in, another fastball, this time more toward the middle. Mantle swung. The sound was not normal. People later said it was sharper, cleaner, like something snapped in the air. A crack that felt less like wood meeting leather and more like a cannon firing. And instantly, the stadium knew. The ball jumped out toward left field with a violent climb, the kind that makes outfielders stop pretending they have a chance. It carried. It cleared the fence. Home run. But the stadium didn't explode into celebration the way it would for any other walk-off blast. Because the instant the ball was gone, every eye snapped back to Mickey Mantle. Because the truth of the moment wasn't the swing, it was what came after it. Baseball fans love the myth of the home run. They don't love the cost. Mantle turned toward first base, and what should have been a simple trot became a public trial. 90 feet to first has never felt so long. It was less running than hobbling, an ugly, desperate shuffle. The cast wouldn't bend, the knee wouldn't hold. Every step looked like it sent electricity up his leg, like the pain was climbing his body trying to shut him down. And as he moved, the crowd went silent again. Not the polite silence of suspense, but the stunned silence of people watching someone suffer in real time. At first base, Orioles first baseman Boog Powell watched him approach with a face that didn't belong in a rivalry. Then Powell turned toward his dugout and said something that felt almost shocking in its humanity. "I hope he makes it." Not, "I hope he's out." Not, "I hope he breaks down." Not even, "I hope we win." Just, "I hope he makes it." Because that's when the rivalry collapsed. That's when the Yankees and Orioles stopped being enemies and became witnesses to the same event. A man trying to finish something his body had no business attempting. Mantle rounded first, heading for second, and it looked worse. His face was twisted, pain tightening it into something raw and childlike. Sweat poured down his forehead. His shoulders dipped as if his body wanted to fold. The Orioles fielders didn't move with urgency. They stood frozen, not because they didn't know what to do, but because there was nothing to do. You don't throw out a man limping on a walk-off homer. You don't tag someone who's already bleeding from the inside. The only thing left was to watch. By the time he reached second, the stadium had transformed into something else entirely. Not a sports venue, a cathedral of shared emotion. Every fan in those seats understood that this was going to be remembered not as a baseball highlight, but as an image, Mantle, broken, forcing his way around the bases like a man crawling through fire. He limped toward third. And that's where Brooks Robinson stood. Robinson had seen Mantle do impossible things before. Launch balls into distances that felt imaginary, flip games with one swing, punish mistakes so brutally pitchers looked haunted. But this wasn't domination. This was endurance. This was a man refusing to collapse in front of 18,000 witnesses. Robinson didn't sneer. He didn't turn away. He just stared, locked in, as Mantle approached the bag like it was the edge of a cliff. Mantle hit third and nearly went down. His legs buckled, and for a moment it looked like the body would finally win. He stumbled, caught himself, and kept going. Tears were now streaming down his face, not tears of joy, not tears of triumph. Tears pulled out of him by pure physical agony. The kind of tears you don't choose. The kind your nervous system forces out when the pain has nowhere else to go. And then Brooks Robinson began clapping. The opposing team, men who had spent years. The opposing team, men who had spent years trying to beat the Yankees, stood and applauded as Mantle dragged himself toward home. It wasn't sportsmanship for the cameras. It was instinct, a recognition that what they were seeing was larger than competition. The crowd saw it. And something broke open inside Yankee Stadium. The silence turned into noise again, but it wasn't the clean roar of victory. It was messy. It was sobbing. It was cheering and crying at the same time, because people didn't know how else to react to the sight of a legend falling apart while still moving forward. Mantle crossed home plate, and his teammates were there to catch him. Literally. Arms grabbed him before he hit the ground. The walk-off was real. The win was official. But the game itself had almost become irrelevant. In that moment, it felt like the entire stadium understood one brutal truth. Baseball had asked for everything, and Mickey Mantle had paid in full.